By definition, almost any diet you adopt is going to restrict certain foods. Things you used to eat and enjoy, now you can no longer eat. And that often results in hunger. You just can't find enough to eat and get filled with. Today, we'll address that issue. Okay, so you have a meal in front of you. You've got things on your plate that you know are going to not spike your blood sugar very much. It looks wonderful. It looks good. You feel good about the choices you've made. You eat your meal, and then comes the sudden, terrible realization, I'm still hungry. What can you do about that? Well, as we are talking about putting together some dietary guidelines for those of you that are wanting to get your A1c into the fives, I wanted to address that issue. I've talked about it some before, but I want to talk about it again. And one of the reasons people cannot stay with a particular diet is usually, in fact, the biggest reason is usually it leaves them hungry. And who wants to be hungry morning, noon, and night? And even when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're still hungry. That's just not any fun at all. And one of the nice things about the keto or low-carb diet is that typically you don't get so hungry. Now, I'm not talking about stuffing yourself like a pig. Obviously, it takes some self-control, but you normally wouldn't get as hungry. Still, however, when you first go low-carb or keto, many times you know much more about what you cannot eat than what you can eat. And there are some meals that are nice and wonderful and they're relatively low carb and you feel like this isn't going to spike my blood sugar, but after you eat, you're still hungry, but you're afraid to take much more because that may end up adding to the carbs and creating a bigger spike. So what is a person to do? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to share several different add-on foods that you can keep around in case you need something extra, a little extra oomph to fill you up. Again, not to stuff you. The goal is never to be stuffed, but so that you can leave the table feeling satisfied. I think satisfied is a good word. Sometimes we want to be stuffed. That's not a good word, but to be satisfied is a good word. So we want you to leave the dinner table or the lunch table or whatever table satisfied. So I want to share several different options that can help fill you up when your main course and maybe your side course didn't quite do the job. The first one I want to talk about is bulletproof coffee. Now, I have to admit, there's no coffee in this cup at all. I've already had my bulletproof coffee. Actually, had it twice today, but you get the idea. Bulletproof coffee is very satisfying. Now, some of you are saying, bulletproof schmulletproof. Why do you keto people always talk about bulletproof coffee? What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this. The one thing we want almost above every other thing when we eat meals is to eat foods that are not going to spike A, our blood sugar, and B, our insulin levels. If we can find anything that does not shoot up our blood sugar, and the result of high blood sugar is always going to be high insulin levels if you've got a pancreas that works at all. Now, if you have a pancreas that's failed, as in a type 1, then that won't shoot up your insulin, but that's not good either. But for most type 2s, your pancreas works. That's not really your problem. Your problem is insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome. And so we want foods, or we want something that will satisfy us without spiking our blood sugar and causing a huge insulin release to try to keep up with that high blood sugar. And that's why we talk about bulletproof coffee so much. The thing about bulletproof coffee is it's coffee, which almost every American loves and many people in other countries as well. It's coffee filled with fat. And fat is the one macronutrient that does not spike blood sugar virtually at all, and therefore has almost no raising ability toward insulin as well. So your blood sugar stays low, your insulin levels keep in bounds. But the thing of it is, all that fat in that coffee, and when I say all, I don't mean you're just dumping, you're filling it up to the top with cream and then you're jamming in some butter. You're going to take about a tablespoon worth of butter and several tablespoons worth of cream. You may choose to throw in some MCT oil or coconut oil. But that cream or that MCT oil or that butter, it's all fat. So blood sugar stays low, insulin levels stay low, and guess what? You feel satisfied. When I first started thinking about skipping breakfast and having bulletproof coffee instead, I didn't like it because I was used to have a nice breakfast, watch the morning news, see what's going on in the world, have my breakfast. Benedicta sit next to me, have her breakfast while we watch the news and find out what's happening. And when I thought about just going to coffee, I was like, oh, that doesn't sound very exciting. But I found that bulletproof coffee is very satisfying. And it can pretty much do me until lunch. In fact, I make it do me until lunch. But when I say pretty much, what I mean is I don't get hungry until maybe a little bit before lunch. So it is very satisfying. It doesn't spike blood sugar, and it can help fill you up. You can use bulletproof coffee after lunch as well. You say you ate a lunch. It's a nice low-carb lunch, but you're not quite full. Have some bulletproof coffee as well. All right, let's go to number 2. Which would be this baby. And you all know what this is. It is celery. And one of the marvelous things about celery is it has virtually no carbs. Now, I say virtually. It has like about 1.2 or 1.5 grams of carbs for a stick, but essentially no carbs. Now, celery is not all that filling. So if you say, well, I'm hungry, I ate my dinner meal, I ate my lunch meal, I'm still hungry, eating one stalk of celery is not going to really do the job. But we've got things like, and I'm going to show you 2 peanut butters here, natural peanut butter and Peter Pan peanut butter. Now, I was prepared to try to demonstrate and show you how superior this is in terms of net grams of carbs, and I was assuming I hadn't really looked carefully enough and compared these two. I was assuming this would be way better in terms of net carbs than the store-bought, well, they're both store-bought, but the Peter Pan peanut butter. To my surprise, when I looked, this has 4 net grams of carbs for 2 tablespoons, and this has 5 net grams of carbs for 2 tablespoons. So there really isn't enough difference in the carb content of these 2 peanut butters to make much of a difference. And if all you're looking at is its glucose-raising properties, either one of these would really be about identical. However, this does have hydrogenated vegetable oil in it. This does not. The ingredients here are peanuts and salt, and they make kind of an oily substance somehow out of the peanuts, but no hydrogenated vegetable oil. There is a better choice, however, than peanut butter, and that is cream cheese. This is Philadelphia cream cheese. And for 28 ounces, which is not quite 2 tablespoons, but is close, it is less than 1 gram. So cream cheese is far superior even to the natural peanut butter. And it is just as filling. It tastes quite nice. Again, you can get filled up. So really, this is your best bang for your buck in terms of carbohydrates. Okay, well, let's look at another filler-upper, and that is the lowly boiled egg. The nice thing about boiled eggs is you can boil a bunch of them at the beginning of the week. And 6, 8, 10, whatever you want to do, keep them in your refrigerator and bring them out as needed. Eggs do have carbs, but it's like something like 0.6 of 1 gram of carb per egg, so, virtually nothing. And that means you can eat 1 egg, 2 eggs, 3 eggs, whatever you want. Eggs are tasty. Who doesn't like eggs? So these can also be added to your meal. You say, well, that was a nice meal. I'm not quite full. Have an egg, a boiled egg, or have 2 boiled eggs, or 3 boiled eggs. And they are more filling. They have more fat. They will satisfy you more. Even with a salad, a lot of times a salad will fill you up temporarily, but after about 3 hours, you're hungry again. you throw in an egg or two, and you will be filled for longer. So boiled eggs are a great filler upper, and there's no law, there's no rule about eggs. Some people say, well, eggs don't go with this or with that, or I've got this kind of a meal, an egg wouldn't fit. It's kind of like the people who say a red wine works with a certain meal and a white wine works with a certain meal. Well, who made that law? Is that really a law? Are there wine police that are going to come and arrest you if you drink red wine with a certain meal? Are there egg police that are going to come and arrest you if you eat an egg with your fish, or eat an egg with a meal that an egg traditionally is never eaten with? Here's a little hint. Here's a little news flash. There are no egg police. No policeman is going to come and arrest you for eating an egg that doesn't traditionally go with that particular meal. It will fill you up. Remember, there are some rules to this diet that will beat diabetes, but what foods go with what foods, that it has nothing to do with the rules. There are no rules about that. So consider the lowly egg. And another choice would be buy cheese in big blocks. Cheese is filling and has very little carbs to it, especially the harder cheese. Those soft packets of cheese that are in slices that are wrapped, each slice is wrapped, that you put on hamburgers or whatever, those have much more carbs than a hard chunk of cheese like this. This one says that it has less than 1 gram for 28 ounces, 28 grams serving size, or 1 ounce. Basically, it's a freebie. Eat a thin slice, eat a fat slice, it hardly matters. There is so little carbs to a hard block of cheese like this. And the good news is you can pretty much get cheese anywhere. I don't know where you could live that you couldn't get cheese somewhere, and it's usually not that expensive. So let me just cut right through the heart of the matter. I'm going to cut through this plastic, and lo and behold, we've got cheese, almost no carbs to it. It will fill you. And the nice thing about cheese is it's not quite good enough in this form that you're going to just stuff yourself and overeat. It's good. I like it, but I'm never tempted to overeat cheese. Keep some cheese on hand. If your meal is over, you're saying, man, I just did not get filled. Dennis, what are you trying to do to me? You give me this dietary guideline, and you're leaving me hungry every night, or hungry every lunchtime. Get some cheese. Fill up on that. You say, well, that's not exciting enough for me. My friend, who said your meals are supposed to thrill you? I mean, we're not talking about a Six Flags amusement park where you're in a roller coaster and you've got your hands up in the air going, whee! We're talking about filling up without spiking your blood sugar. You had enough time, all those years where you were creating diabetes in yourself. Well, you ate donuts, and you ate cotton candy, and you ate chips, and you ate all the junk, Little Debbie's. You had all kinds of fun. Now stop eating for fun and start eating for your health, and cheese will help to do that. All right, one more choice, and this one you have to be careful with, and I've said this before. This has to do with nuts. These are mixed nuts. And for a 1 ounce serving, which is about 1/4 of a cup, you're getting 3 net grams of carbs, which is not much as long as you can limit it. So let me just show you what a 1 ounce, this is 1/3 of a cup. I couldn't find a 1/4 cup measure in the kitchen, so I'll just not quite fill it up. Okay, so about 1/3 of a cup there, or excuse me, 1/4 of a cup. I didn't fill it up. Now let's put that in my hand. That's a pretty good handful of nuts, and that's only 3 grams of net carbs, 3 net grams of carbs. So that by itself, this one handful could fill me up. But the trick is, it's hard to limit nuts to a handful. It's hard for me. And I'm supposed to be Mr. Self-Control. I'm not really, but I do okay. But it's hard for me to limit nuts. Once I get started, they taste so good. It's like, oh, I think I may need another handful. This handful can help fill you up don't have a second handful, don't have a third handful or a fourth handful. So if you've got enough self-control, you could add a handful of nuts, and some of your better ones would be pecans, almonds, walnuts. These mixed nuts aren't bad. These actually have cashews in them, some, not too many. And cashews are really one of the worst nuts you can eat because they have about twice the carbs most nuts have. All right, well, that is it for now. Just a little simple program, but something that needed to be said, especially for those of you that are joining this Fives Club that we are establishing. People are registering. We're up to around 900 people have registered so far, and we've still got a couple weeks before we close it off. And we'll take no more registrations after the end of January 2022. So register today if you want to be part of this program. Why should you register? Well, we will be sending you links and sending you emails with messages from me and links to videos I will create that will not be on Beat Diabetes. They'll be on a special hidden channel that you will need to know about. And what we're trying to do is help people get motivated. We want you to watch all the videos that I send. A lot of them are going to be short. They won't be this long even. They'll be like 3-4 minutes. But little encouragements, little tips here and there. I won't promise how often I'll send them, but probably every week there'll be a couple or so, if not more. So sign up, send an email to grace@spiritofgrace.org, grace@spiritofgrace.org, and all you have to do is put on the subject line, count me in. Count me in on the subject line, send it to grace@spiritofgrace.org, and we will register you, and we'll be sending out emails to you regularly throughout these 6 months, and we'll create videos especially for you. God bless. We will see you again soon.